On Christmas Eve, 1945, in the small mountain town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, a quiet, two-story family home burned to the ground. The blaze was so intense that it reduced the entire structure to ashes in less than an hour. When the flames finally died down, 5 children were missing. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, 1945, a series of strange events began to unfold around the Sodder home. The official conclusion was straightforward. They died in the fire. But there was one troubling problem. No remains were ever found. Not a single bone fragment, not a tooth, nothing at all. Over the next 7 decades, bizarre clues would emerge. Mysterious sightings, threatening strangers, and a mother's relentless hunt for answers. All of this would transform a tragic fire into one of America's most chilling unsolved mysteries. Tonight, we revisit the case of the Sodder children, a story where every answer leads to more questions, and where the truth may have been buried long before the ashes cooled. Background: the Sodder family. The Sodder family was well known in Fayetteville. George and Jenny Sodder had 10 children, all hardworking and close-knit, raised with old-world Italian values. The parents ran a successful trucking business. By all accounts, the Sodders were respected in their community, and sometimes they were feared. Especially George. He was outspoken, very outspoken, particularly about his political views. He was known for harsh criticisms of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. In a small immigrant town full of divided loyalties, this earned him powerful enemies. Local residents later admitted that tensions were rising, unspoken but unmistakably present, the days before the fire. First, there was a strange visitor. A man arrived at the house offering to sell the Sodders' life insurance. When George declined, the man reportedly issued a chilling warning. "Your house will go up in smoke," he said, "and your children are going to be destroyed." He hinted that George's outspoken political views were dangerous. Then, a few days later, another mysterious stranger appeared. A woman approached the Sodder home and told Jenny something eerily similar. "Your house is going to burn," she said, "and your children are going to be destroyed." Other witnesses reported seeing a man in a car parked on the highway, watching the Sodder children as they walked home from school. Finally, on Christmas Eve itself, odd events continued. A phone call came in around 12:30 in the morning. A woman with a strange laugh asked for someone the Sodders didn't know. Jenny hung up. Outside, she noticed something disturbing. The family's ladder, normally kept against the house, was missing. Later, it would be found thrown down a 75-foot embankment. Someone had moved it deliberately. Shortly after midnight, Jenny noticed something odd. A loud bang on the roof, a rolling sound, then silence. Around 1 in the morning, she woke to the smell of smoke. Flames had erupted in George's office, near the fuse box. They spread with shocking speed. Inside the home were 9 of the 10 Sodder children. 4 escaped. 5 did not. The 5 missing were Maurice, age 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, and Betty, just 5 years old. They had been sleeping upstairs, and the staircase leading up had already collapsed and become engulfed in flames. George attempted to reach them through a window, shattering it with his bare hands, but the heat was too intense. He tried to move his trucks to climb to the window, but both, normally reliable, wouldn't start. It was as if the entire rescue effort had been sabotaged. And the fire department? They didn't arrive for 7 hours. The aftermath. Where are the children? By morning, the home was reduced to ash. Officials sifted through debris and quickly declared the children dead. But the Sodders didn't believe it. Here's why. First, no remains were found. Cremation experts later confirmed that bones should have survived a fire of this size. House fires rarely exceed 1100 degrees Fahrenheit, far below the temperature required to fully destroy human bone. Even chicken bones in the kitchen stove survived longer burns, but none of the children's bones were ever recovered. Second, the phone line had been cut. Investigators determined the wiring to the house hadn't caused the fire. Someone had cut the phone line outside the home. Third, witnesses claimed the children survived. Multiple reports suggested the children may have been taken from the scene. A woman claimed she saw the children in a passing car the night of the fire. A motel worker said she saw them with several adults the following morning. Another woman working at a Charleston restaurant recalled serving breakfast to several children who resembled the missing Sodders. None of these leads were followed up by authorities. The billboard, the letter, and the man in the photo. Desperate for answers, George and Jenny erected a massive billboard along Route 16, displaying the faces of the missing children. It stayed up for over 40 years, becoming a haunting symbol of a family refusing to give up. Then, in 1968, 23 years after the fire, Jenny received a letter addressed to her, postmarked from Kentucky. Inside was a photo of a young man in his early 20s. On the back, someone had written, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, Elil boys, a 90132. The Sodders were convinced the man in the photograph might be Louis, their son, who would have been about that age by then. Determined to find answers, they hired a private investigator to track down whoever had sent the letter. The investigator disappeared along with their money. The trail went cold, just like that. The family would never learn who had mailed that photograph, or whether it truly showed one of their lost children. Over the decades, this case has given rise to numerous theories. Let's examine the most prominent ones. The first theory is that the children perished in the fire. This remains the official explanation. However, the evidence supporting this conclusion is remarkably thin. No remains were ever recovered, no thorough follow-up investigation was conducted, and there's no explanation for the severed phone line or the missing ladder. The second theory suggests the fire was deliberately set, and the children were kidnapped. This theory aligns closely with the multiple eyewitness accounts and the threatening warnings George had received in the weeks before the fire. Some researchers believe the children were taken as a way to silence George politically, or perhaps as an act of retribution. A third theory involves the Italian mafia. Several investigators have proposed that the Sodder children were abducted by Italian operatives, possibly for ransom or coercion, and then taken overseas to live with relatives abroad. The fourth theory, though less widely accepted, involves human trafficking. This theory suggests the children were separated from one another and given entirely new identities. The later alleged sightings would seem to support this possibility. The fifth theory centers on corruption and an official cover-up. The questionable police work, missing records, and the suspiciously rushed ruling have all fueled suspicions that authorities may have been involved in a coordinated effort to conceal the truth. To this day, no theory has been definitively proven. But Jenny Sodder remained steadfast in her conviction until her death in 1989. She never wavered in her belief that her children did not die in that fire. She had spent a lifetime trying to figure out what had happened to her children. The Sodder children case stands as one of America's most enduring mysteries, not simply because 5 children vanished without a trace, but because of the sheer number of questions that remain unanswered to this day. How could a house fire burn intensely enough to completely erase all traces of 5 human bodies? Why did multiple witnesses report seeing the children alive in the days following the fire? And who was responsible for sending that mysterious photograph more than 20 years after the children disappeared? Perhaps most haunting of all. If the children truly did survive that night, where did they go? And why did they never find their way back home? For now, the truth remains buried somewhere between ash and memory, locked away in a Christmas Eve night that continues to haunt us 80 years later. And so, the Sodder children remain lost to time, swallowed by a winter night that never gave them back. But here, in the quiet hours after dark, we remember them, and the secrets that still smolder in the ashes. Until next time, this has been Stranger After Dark. Follow and subscribe for the next case.